After pooping blood for weeks and the medical profession telling me that I need to have my large colon removed, it was time for me to make a change. Now, it was about January 2023. I was having another flare-up. It must have been, well, I've had that many, at least my 12th or 13th flare-up, where I was constantly bleeding, constantly having to run to the toilet. I was in a really, really bad way. I ended up going to the hospital, and I was in there for about 5 or 6 days. While I was there, they had to give me, obviously, prednisolone, which was a steroid. They had to give a steroid up my butt. They had to basically make sure that I was getting the blood under control, because if I didn't, then they was going to say it could end up perforating my larger colon and have my bowels removed. Now, for me, this wasn't an option. I have always thought that there's got to be another solution than these crappy medications that they've given me for years. So I'd end up being on these harsh autoimmune suppressants for a few months, well, sometimes even a year and a half, think that I've got into remission, come off, 6 months later I've ended up having another flare-up. Or while I was on the medication, having another flare-up and having to go back on the steroids. So it was an endless cycle of just constantly just trying all these stupid medications, asking them what other things there are to do out there, and their blatant, I'd say, ignorance was basically, nope, this is the only way that you can get into remission and then kind of have a normal life. But for me, that wasn't a normal life. Having to take these medications that could cause all sorts of side effects, like you basically ruin your immune system, to give you cancers. These medications like the prednisolone make my face really fat. You get spots all over my face, my back. These weren't nice medications whatsoever. But because all the doctors and all the medical professions, all they ever looked into was how to cure things with medication, tablets, injections, but they didn't actually get to the root cause. So I was obviously very intrigued on how to cure this thing without taking the medication. So I was like, is there anything else you can do? Is there, foods that are irritating? Every response I got was, food isn't the cause for the flare-ups. They told me that it didn't matter what I ate, because at the end of the day, it wasn't the cause of why I was having a flare-up. Now, I kind of thought that was absolute bullshit. But as you do, you listen to the medical profession, because they're supposed to know what they're talking about. They're supposed to be able to give you the advice that you need so you can end up healing yourself, getting cured. But they don't. All they do is feed you something that is just going to cause even more side effects. So, obviously over the years I've tried all sorts of different things. I've tried like different foods. I've tried veganism, vegetarian. I've tried all these other diets. Think, okay, is there going to be something to do with this? And at the time I had my latest flare-up, which was January 23, I was actually eating vegetarian. And then when I went into hospital, I ended up having to start eating whatever they gave me. Weren't going to be one of these people in the hospital like, no, I can't eat that, I can't eat that. You get what you're given, because I didn't want to be awkward. So I started eating more meat again, and while I was there, the looming decision for them to take my large colon out was ever in my mind, because I was there constantly thinking, if I don't start getting better soon, then I'm going to have my bowels removed. Now, I don't know if you have ever realised, but your bowels are basically your second brain. They say with all the microorganisms and the biome and everything that's in your bowels, it's kind of like a second brain. That if there's something wrong with your gut, there's generally something wrong in the rest of your body. So for me, removing the large colon was just a no-brainer not to do it, because it was just not worth the constant what basically was irreversible. So the constant thing in my head of going, should I have done that, should I have not? So for the rest of my life, I would have had to shit in a bag. I would have had to keep emptying that. I wouldn't have been able to have a proper normal life. So then when I was in hospital, I started doing research. I started going into, is there cures? Is there ways to reduce the inflammation? And this is when I come onto the carnivore diet. Now, I started the carnivore diet in August 23. So the date now is October 24. So in fact, no, it's November 24. So what for a year, and August, September, October, and 3 months, so 15 months, I've been doing the carnivore diet. Now, all I can say is when I was in hospital, I didn't know about the carnivore diet. So they put me onto the steroids and everything, and they said you need to go on vendolizumab, which is an injection you have to inject yourself in your stomach, which then basically puts you in remission. Well, in August, I literally stopped that medication and started the carnivore diet. Now, I don't know if you should do this or not, but it's up to you. Like, I thought, I need to come off this medication. I found out the carnivore diet actually heals people with autoimmune diseases. So it's been known to basically get rid of ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, all sorts of different, like basically autoimmune diseases or anything like that, arthritis. So I just jumped straight feet first. Some people don't do that, they just like kind of ease into it, maybe doing a bit of keto, maybe just things like that. But I decided, you know what, I thought, I can't be on this medication any longer. Every time or every second I'm on this, my immune system's getting worse. I'm feeling more shit, my joints are starting to hurt, my hair's starting to thin, I'm starting to get really tired and just drained, just doing the basics, just getting like dressed and going out and walking dog and coming back, it was just, the medication was not good in the slightest. So there's different ways to do the carnivore diet if you want to add like cheese and dairy and stuff like that, but that's for like a different video. It depends on how you want to go about it. But there's a person called Michaela Jordan Peterson. It's Jordan Peterson's daughter. She was on about the lion diet, which is basically just meat, salt and water. So generally it's ruminant meat, which is an animal with more than one stomach. So I went for beef. So what I was actually doing is eating getting a full packet of mince, 500 grams, making that into burgers, and then having butter. And I was doing that for absolutely ages. And I found within a very short time that I was having really no symptoms whatsoever in my bowels. And generally, when I come off the harsh medications, like where I had to go on other injections, within 6 months, I ended up having another flare-up. Well, this time, after 6 months, I didn't have a flare-up. Now, 15 months later, I've only had one flare-up, but that wasn't really a full flare-up. I had a tiny little bit of blood, but at that time, I had a lot of stress, and I found out like a lot of stress does seem to irritate me a little bit. But this was, I think, about 3 or 4 months into the carnivore diet, and since then, I haven't. So what I did was went really, really, really strict. So instead of having the butter in my diet, I went completely just beef, salt and water. That was it. And then within the space of a week, I didn't have to go on prednisolone, I didn't have to go on other injections. Within the space of a week, it had cleared up and I was back to normal. And ever since then, I haven't had no blood, no nothing. So for me, carnivore diet has healed my bowels. I have got a better life. Now, some people do take a bit longer to get used to the carnivore diet. For me personally, it did take a long time. So after about 12 months to maybe, I'd say about 11 to 12 months, it took me to get fat adapted. Now some people say after a month, they're pretty good. Some people after 3 months, some people 6. I seem to take a lot longer to get fat adapted than other people. Now I don't know if that's down to obviously my ulcerative colitis, because every time I seem to increase my fat, and it went up too much, I seem to have diarrhea. So I think I had to take a bit longer to get used to my fat content, and fat is where you get your energy source from. So if I'm not having enough fat, then maybe I wasn't getting enough energy and everything else. But then as time's gone on, I've been able to increase it, and now I have a shitload of fat, and I have a shitload of energy, and I feel fantastic. So it's about starting from where you are. If you want to jump feet first, go for it. I can't say to do it or don't do it, but in my opinion, it was the best decision I ever made by going to carnivore diet. What you got to think is, your bowels are trying to tell you something. You are currently, going to the toilet loads, bleeding, you are feeling absolutely shit, you've tried medications, you're on the medication and you feel absolute shit, you're not getting, obviously, you feel your joints are hurting, you feel like you are tired all the time. So your body is trying to tell you something that it's not happy with what you are giving it. So for me, I was on the vegetarian diet and I actually felt absolutely shocking. But then as soon as I just transferred and went straight to meat, I was feeling fantastic. Your body is trying to tell you something, that whatever you're eating. Now, nowadays, if I try and eat something, so if I have maybe a little bit of fruit, the sugar by itself puts me off ever eating it. Because I get such a, it's a hard, thing to describe. It is like you are buzzing, and it just makes you feel like absolute garbage. So for me, I don't want to ever eat any sort of carbohydrates again. When I first go in the first few months, you kind of crave a little bit of sugar and this and other. Now, I don't even think about eating fruit. I don't think about eating anything else. Because if I do, I feel like shit. It kind of shows me how much them foods, over the years, have been causing so much damage to me without me even realising it. Now, some people say if you have a little bit each day, you kind of get acclimatised to it. And I think that's what was happening. I was eating all this crap, not realising how much it was damaging my bowels at the time because I was acclimatised to it. I didn't realise how much it was affecting me. And then over the time, it just built up and built up and built up. And then bam, another flare up. And I think, why is this happening? It can't be my diet because the doctor told me it wasn't my diet. So, it's telling you something. Why not try? Because I know there's a person called Dr. Ken Berry, and I think you should go and check him out because he's absolutely amazing. He says, why don't you try the carnivore diet for 90 days? So that's obviously what I first tried it. I was like, right, I'll try it for 90 days. After 90 days, I realised this is the way that you're supposed to eat. This is a proper human diet, as he says. So try it for 90 days. Put in the comments below if you obviously like to eat carnivore diet, if you've done it before, or if you have never tried it before. Or put in the comments below saying that you're going to try it, because I pretty much guarantee that if you try the carnivore diet for at least 90 days, you'll be shocked at how different your life will be. So, that's it for today's video. If you like the video, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.